So today we'll be predicting the future of Project Eden's Garden. The characters I think will die in a chapter, whether they will be the victim or the killer, and what characters I think will survive. Obvious spoilers go for Project Eden's Garden Chapter 1, any of the mainline Danganronpa games, and a few of the fan games. Two examples is Danganronpa Nova and Danganronpa Nova 2 will probably be mentioned, they may not be. I'm just putting this out now as just kind of a warning. Obviously, we start with Chapter 1, which, obviously since that's the only chapter out, we know the people who died that chapter, being Wolfgang and Eva. I do not think Chapter 2 will have that same shock factor that Chapter 1 had. I mean, Chapter 1, we have this seemingly antagonist as the victim, and then the seemingly support as the killer. And I do not see like Kai or Diana or Damon, if they want to go the V3 route, killing off the protag, I don't see them going down that route for Chapter 2. I can obviously see maybe those characters dying in a future chapter, but at least for Chapter 2, I do not see those characters dying. Obviously, to get on to my Chapter 2 predictions now, though, I think Ingrid will be our victim, and our killer will be Ulysses. My reasoning for this is just they both do not give me, like, the vibe of a character that's gonna make it far. I just cannot see these two making it past this chapter, and the main reason why I think Ingrid will be the victim is that I think they'd want to turn on the, make it surprising. They want to make it where the character you'd think would be the killer, which would obviously be Ingrid, as, we see her big, strong, decently I'm pretty sure they said something about her knowing how to create poison, and with the fact of Ulysses, who we know cannot smell anything, we know that he's forgetful, and we know he's very sleepy. We see this in the prologue and Chapter 1 quite a bit. So I think a lot more people would think Ingrid would be the killer of this chapter, with Ulysses as victim, but I think they would turn it on the head, where the character that seemingly will be the victim will be the killer, and vice versa. I feel like Ulysses will probably lose his notebook, or pretend to obviously lose his notebook, so then either they don't have that information that they could have had with it, or he'll write down fake stuff to kind of trick people, to obviously him to try and escape. And the Tozu perks and all that, I'm not going to really predict. Same with, I'm not really going to predict who the mastermind is, mainly just because they could do what the first Danganronpa game did, and obviously have a character who dies be revealed to be the mastermind. I just think it's too hard a thing to predict now. Maybe in the future, like maybe around Chapter 4 5, when Chapter 4 and 5 come out, I will predict who the killer is. Not killer, the mastermind is. And say who I personally think it is. I just think right now it's way too early to predict that. Chapter 3, I personally do think that Eloise will be our victim. Mainly just because I can see her or Desmond dying at some point early for the other to get a big character arc. And I just see Eloise dying more so between the two, where Desmond will kind of get that character arc and, make it to the end. But obviously, who will be sad about, obviously, Eloise being dead. Obviously, with this game as well, a lot of characters have kind of been put into two groups. Like, you have so many characters who have one specific character they're close with, which obviously I definitely see a lot of the time, one of them surviving, because they'll obviously get the character development from that. We have Grace and Wolfgang with Chapter 1, and Damon and Eva with Chapter 1 as well. I definitely do see a lot of characters having that person close to them die, and then they'll get that character arc from that, and they will either obviously die in a future chapter, or just honestly straight up survive. And honestly, the option for the killer I see is Cassidy. A lot of comic relief type characters do tend to die in Chapter 3. Obviously, some examples I can think of this is obviously we lost Hifumi, who was a kind of a comic relief character. You have Ibuki, you have Tenko. I say Kakeru is somewhat of a comic relief character, and you could also somewhat consider Setsuka or Hibiki as kind of a comic relief character, so I definitely see us losing one this chapter. I mean, we've still got a good few comic relief characters left. You've still got Kai, you've still got Jet. Grace is somewhat of a comic relief character at times. So you've still got a good few comic relief characters left, so I can definitely see one of them go in this chapter, and personally, I think Cassidy will be that one to go. With chapter 4, it's a lot more, like, difficult to do. I do have the characters that I think will die this chapter. I can see Kai dying, and I think we will get a double kill this chapter, and I could see Winona as a victim as well, and Jet as the killer. I could also see Winona as the killer and Jet as the victim, just because I feel like Jet, he ain't surviving. He has too much of a... With the fact that we don't know his face, and he's always in a costume, he's built to be a character that's not making it, since I can see us seeing his face in his execution, or right before it, or if he's the victim, we'll obviously see in the body discovery, and you could also have the killer wear his costume to kind of make him seem like he was alive longer than he actually was. You could also have him have an accomplice, which obviously in this case would be Mark, who could wear his costume for the time being, make it look like Jet was in another part of the school entirely, to where he couldn't have been the one to murder either of them. For chapter 5, it's a lot more difficult now, because obviously I could see any of the characters we have alive now. So I think the only exception kind of is John. I don't see surviving this chapter. And I think they will do a Danganronpa 1 and have this chapter be Mara being discovered, kind of similar to obviously what we had with Mukuro in the first Danganronpa game, and I could see maybe Tozu killing Mara and trying to pin the crime on one of the 7 survivors we have left. I think either John will fully be the one who's pinned down, or he'll somehow find a way to make the others escape to try and figure out what really happened, and him obviously getting executed for maybe breaking the rules or something. Obviously, Tozu is a character I see dying in Chapter 6. You know, he's a seemingly mastermind. Obviously, there's a good chance one of the students will be helping him. If I were to guess, it would be Toshiko or Damon. Both characters definitely give me the vibe, but just for now, I think these 6 will be our survivors, as they could do a plot where the mastermind is redeemed, which I think will be quite interesting, as a lot of the masterminds obviously don't get redeemed. The only example I can think of a mastermind that gets redeemed is Izuru from obviously DR2, and you could maybe consider Utsuro, but obviously he dies right after his quote-unquote redemption, so it's very hard to fully say if he was redeemed at that point or not. Anyway, I will be ending the video here. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next one.